Hello everyone, welcome back to the Rugby Paper Roundup. I'm your host Charlie. I'm joined by Cam as always. Another exciting weekend of rugby. Obviously the Rugby Championship began. Cam, how was your weekend? And yeah, did you manage to watch both the games?
I did, yeah. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the first one. I think the entire New Zealand Argentina game, I was still wondering what on earth happened in the first one. But it's a pretty good way to kick off the Rugby Championship for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I feel like that's probably the game that we're going to focus most on, unsurprisingly. Wallabies with possibly the greatest comeback of all time in international rugby. Would you class it as the greatest comeback? Are there any others you can think of that were better?
It won't be points wise, will it? I mean, in terms of the
No, it's
margin,
not.
sure. But in terms of how up against it they were, it's got to be up there, right? They were at altitude against the double world champions. Was it 22-0 down inside 18 minutes? It just came from absolutely nowhere. It's got to be their best result ever for the Wallabies. It's certainly up there in the top three. I remember being at Twickenham for that game against England in November, where they had similar but not quite as big of a comeback. But this one just felt on a completely different level. It was just, I mean, second half when they finally took the lead, it just felt a bit bang, bang, bang. Right? As I say, I couldn't quite believe what I was watching.
Yeah. Points wise, it was actually the sixth biggest of all time, I think, in international rugby. So it's still up there in terms of that. The biggest, I believe, was I think 31 points or something like that. Chile were beating South Korea by, and then South Korea won a few.
So it's in the top
too long
five for
ago.
Tier 1 then. It's in the top five for Tier 1.
Yeah, it will be. Maybe even top three to be fair, because I think one of them was Fiji, Tonga. So
nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean the Springboks looked shell shocked in that second half, especially. I don't know what went wrong. What Rassi was saying at half time. I think the turning point was possibly Sia Khaleesi coming off. That seemed to be when the momentum really shifted, which is testament to how good he is. But yeah, I don't know, a bit worrying.
Rassi said that in his post-game press conference, didn't he? He said it.
Yeah.
The game sort of turned. They started losing the breakdown battle when Khaleesi got injured, and Van Staden, who I thought was great in the first 20 minutes, went off for a HIA. It started to turn at that point. Because in the first 20 minutes, the Wallabies back row was getting outplayed completely.
Oh, yeah.
They're giving away way too many penalties, and they just didn't look threatening at the breakdown. And then after 20 minutes, Fraser McRae, I think he got 2 turnovers before the half and a couple more in the second half. I think it was something like 17 turnovers the Box gave away, which is just unheard of. I think once the tide started to turn, they just didn't really have a plan B. They sort of set their stall out the way they did in the first 20 minutes and couldn't really adapt. I think he's been bashed online quite a bit this week already, but Manny Libbok just did not know how to adapt, and he was a bit deer in headlights when the game started to turn and get a bit closer.
Yeah, massively. And I mean, Libbok, you would say he is probably the third choice fly off now with Andre Pollard and Sasha Feinberg, but they were obviously both out. Springboks were missing quite a few people with injury. So yeah, I guess the question is, are the Springboks finished, or was it just a bad day at the office with a few injuries?
No, they're definitely not finished. I think it was just a very bad day at the office where everything sort of seemed to go wrong. I mean, you mentioned the people that are missing. I'm just looking there: Thomas du Toit, Frans Malherbe, Jasper Wiese, Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu, Andre Pollard, Cheslin Colby, Damien Diolande all missing. The game's completely different if those type of players are playing. I think Libbok's the biggest one. They've given him a big leash in recent months and years. Obviously he's had his goal kicking problems, but I'd be surprised if he features much. They've defended him massively, the coaching staff, but I think it's time now. He's just not international standard. And so I think two of the biggest winners from that game will be Sasha Feinberg, Ngomazulu and Andre Pollard, because those two are pretty clearly the first 2 fly-half choices going forward.
Yeah, 100%. And you do wonder as well, obviously, they went with a 5-3 bench split. You wonder if they could have gone 6-2 and just kind of ground the game out with their, trademark bomb squad physicality. You wonder if that might have changed things. Obviously, it's all in hindsight, but yeah.
Potentially, yeah. Potentially. I think one of the biggest things as well, which hasn't been spoken about enough, is the fitness levels. James O'Connor came out and said it afterwards that, the pace of Super Rugby is like nothing he's ever experienced, and that's really helped the Wallabies. I mean, in the second half, when the game started to open up a little bit, especially in the back row, it just looked like the Wallabies were getting to everything quicker and were pouncing on loose balls quicker. I think that was definitely a factor, which is shocking given they're playing at altitude, and you'd expect that to be a big advantage for the Springboks. Just one of the craziest games I've seen. You're just sitting there, you can't quite believe what's happening in front of you, right? You're not thinking about anything tactically. You're just sort of watching there, and I got no words. I still can't really believe it.
Yeah, that Tom Wright try, especially, to me, it was just like almost slow motion. It was the way he took on the last man, especially. It was just like you knew he was gonna score, but it just happened so slowly. It was mental.
Have you seen Sean Maloney's commentary to it? Have you seen the camera footage? He's all up in arms on the head. He finished his head on the desk, still speaking into his mic.
Yeah.
He was every Australian fan going through it.
Crazy.
It's been a good few weeks for the Wallabies. After the Lions, so after the first test, people were, sort of speaking if the Wallabies were up to it, and then the second test they, ran the Lions very close, took a last minute score for them to win, and then the third test obviously, blew them out of the water, and now this one. Joe Schmidt's a very, very, very good coach. He knows what he's doing. Next week is obviously going to be a lot harder in Cape Town, but yeah, the Wallabies are on the right track for sure.
Yeah, and just to go back, you mentioned about the sort of sharpness and the fitness. Part of that will probably come down to, or certainly come down to the fact that the Wallabies played the Lions and South Africa played Italy twice and Georgia twice in Italy. Can't remember which way around it was, but that's will have a massive impact.
Massive, and those two games that South Africa played were, over a month ago as well. The Wallabies have, been in camp and been match ready for a month now. It's a massive factor. I said before the game, if that game was in Australia, I would have had the Wallabies nearly favourites. I thought that the altitude and the home advantage and the quality would be too much for them to handle this week, but they proved me wrong. But that match sharpness and fitness is definitely a big factor. And I don't think it's just a week one thing. I think it will take a couple of weeks for that to really kick in for the other sides.
Yeah, no, sure. And you have to wonder why they opted to play sort of weaker teams as opposed to bringing someone slightly stronger from the Northern Hemisphere down. Even like a Scotland or something. I know they went to the Pacific, but like, even if they'd have just brought Scotland down, that would have been more of a test and would have been a lot better preparation. So you wonder why they didn't opt for that. I don't know.
There's two sides to it, I guess, right? Like if someone like Scotland had gone down, it obviously would have been a much weaker side with the Lions contingent in there.
Well, yeah, true.
And then there's, all of us are chatting about we want tier 2 sides to get more opportunity, which we obviously need. So I think people like Georgia getting those games against South Africa, you kind of need. I guess from a South African point of view, you're right. You'd want some tougher tests, I guess. But even that Italy game, it was a similar mould, right? South Africa went out to a big lead, and then Italy sort of stuck in there and came back. I think they won the second half, or maybe even the last hour. So you could sort of see cracks from that game, and it played out a similar way last weekend.
Yeah, and I think that's what really won the Wallabies a game, though, the fact that they're battle hardened. And I didn't predict the Wallabies to win, don't get me wrong, but obviously I did mention it going into the weekend. I'm not going to act like I predicted the Wallabies to win, because definitely would not have done.
Maybe saw that.
But yeah, you can you can definitely kind of say, or you could see it going into the game, that there was something there just based on the tough summer that the Wallabies has had.
That's why I was so surprised in the first 18 minutes that it was so one-sided, because I thought it might go that the Wallabies come out firing, battle-hardened and start well, and then the box quality and bench sort of comes through and they take it at the end. But it worked the other way around. The later on it got, the better the Wallabies looked fitness-wise. And that's where, the past 3 weeks against the Lions sort of showed.
Yeah. And how do you think the Springboks will go about the next game? Because obviously they're playing each other again this weekend. Do you think they'll make wholesale changes, or do you think they'll kind of keep it similar and hope for it to work?
They'll make changes for sure. It's just come out that Sia Khaleesi's not going to play. He's injured. Peter Steph du Toit is out with concussion. I think Kurtley Arensa's out as well. So they'll have to make some forced changes. In that back row, it's going to be very interesting who they go with. I can't see Manny Lubbock being in the squad again. The line out was also a big miss for the Springboks, where they change it up in the second row and maybe move Marks to the bench as well. I expect quite a few changes, some force and some tactical for sure.
And I mean, we've all seen their depth. I remember a couple of weeks ago seeing a thing that had like 6 different potential Springboks lineups, and basically every team looked insane. So they're obviously stacked in pretty much every position. So they shouldn't worry too much about that. But yeah, it's never good when you have to chop and change, be it through injury or through performance.
Yeah, and I think this week will be close as well. I definitely don't think it's a case of let's chop and change and bring some of our big guns back in and that will do the trick. As you said, that battle hardened will still take a few weeks to kick in for the Springboks, and the Wallabies have that. It's going to be close again. If the Wallabies won, that would be a massive, massive shock. That would really shake things up. And then you look at South Africa; they're going to Eden Park the following round, and then they got another game in New Zealand. That would really throw the cat amongst the pigeons.
Yeah, I mean, that Eden Park game is even bigger than it originally was. Obviously, it was already huge and already touted as the game of the tournament. But, it might not even end up being the game of the tournament if the Wallabies can stick a run together. Because, honestly, their back line is quality, and it is very young as well, pretty much all of them. That is there for a good few years to come, and it looks extremely exciting. I really like the look of it.
You can tell because your team of the week piece on the Rugby Paper website, there's a full Wallabies backline apart from Thomas Albanot. So you're right though. Youth, pace, excitement. I mean, Max Jorgensen is 20, and you think about some of the moments he's had. Obviously, that winning try against England back in November. Some of the Super Rugby moments he's had. He's 20. It's crazy, and Tualiti as well. He's going to be a star. I mean, he's so Sonny Bill Williams-esque, but a bit quicker. He's proper special. They need to make sure he doesn't head back to league at any stage. Tom Wright as well. He's been great for years. He's been, you say underrated. I guess he is, but he's been the Wallabies starting fullback, and he's just electric. He beat a man in a phone box, and he's great positionally as well. It's very exciting times for the Wallabies. I guess it's completely different. You've got the halfbacks, Nick White, who came out and then James O'Connor outside him, who's 34 and first game in 3 years, and then you've got the youth outside of them. So it's a good mix. I thought James O'Connor was great as well. That worked for the first try, which really started the comeback. That little offload to Len Ikitau was all class. So as I say, it's looking good for the Wallabies.
And it's looking good for Tigers as well, having signed James O'Connor.
And you've got Jeff Farling coming in, line-out coach.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, that's good. But yeah, like you say, the halfbacks and sort of just backs blend of experience and youth, they seem to have it to a T right now, which it's good to see. And it's good to see a competitive rugby championship as well, competitive outside of South Africa and the All Blacks. So
I guess it's sort of turned in the past couple of years. We had that period where the All Blacks won everything, and then last year South Africa won the title, and hopefully in the next few years we see some more jostling that Argentina can get in the mix. I mean, Argentina obviously last year had a historic year, beating all three of them. It's good, it's competitive. That's what you want to see, right? And I think it's going to be the same throughout the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, and I feel like we should touch on the Argentina game briefly. Obviously lost, but put in a decent shift, I would say, against the All Blacks. What do you make of the game?
I thought there was going to be shades of the first game when, just after the second half, Argentina mounted a little bit of comeback. I think they brought it to 12, and then the All Blacks sort of decided we're not going to do the same and took it away from them. They were impressive. I mean, Will Jordan again, just phenomenal. He's proper talent, and that's a very good win in Argentina. Yeah, I thought after the Lions win in Dublin for Argentina that they were going to really kick on, and obviously they lost both games at home against England, missing a lot of first choice players, albeit. But the last three games haven't really panned out how I thought it might after the Lions win. So they've got some thinking to do for sure. That next week's a massive one again in Argentina against New Zealand, and then after that, they're on the road in Australia. That'll be two very tough games, and then South Africa to finish off, who will be fully match fit and in the swing of things by then. So it's a pretty crucial fixture for Argentina this weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd seen that they'd not beaten the All Blacks in Argentina ever, so that there's definitely a bit of hoodoo. But over the years, Argentina.
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they've only. I think they've only won maybe 3 times, ever, but maybe even twice. But
I remember their first one in New Zealand a few years ago.
Yeah, I think one might have been at one was at a World Cup, but I'm trying to think which one.
Okay.
And then
Might
maybe 2
in the day.
Yeah, I can't remember, but they've definitely not won in Argentina against the All Blacks. So yeah, but
and that keeps the All Blacks number one in the world. Well, moves the All Blacks to number one in the world now. After the Australia win and the All Blacks win. I was going to ask you, actually, obviously, number one ranked in the world is not a true reflection sometimes, but do you think the All Blacks are the best team in the world right now?
I would still say the Springboks, to be honest. I don't want to be too reactionary and say otherwise, because the evidence is there from the past few years. The All Blacks are a bit of a weird one, though, because they seem to go under the radar a lot more than they have done in the past. Obviously, historically, they've always been at the top, and they still are. But I don't know. There seems to be less noise surrounding this team, and it's a weird one because it makes it seem like they're not as good as they actually are, because they are still unbelievable.
I guess it's little transitional period that they've been through, right? But I think they'll absolutely love flying under the radar. Obviously after the World Cup final, they've had a few changes that they've had to make with people retiring, and obviously Scott Robertson's come in. I think I do agree with you. I don't think they're quite the best team in the world despite the rankings. I'd still have the Springboks ahead of them, but I think the next month my mind could easily be changed. Obviously you've still got Ireland in the mix, who are second in the world rankings, and France are fourth. Just I don't think they're quite at the top yet.
No.
But I think this next 2-3 weeks, if South Africa go to New Zealand and the All Blacks win both fairly comfortably, then I think my mind will change. And I think we're heading down that path. Eden Park obviously is a place where no one wins. And, given the first week, how both sides played, and, a couple of the injuries that have come out for the Springboks, I can't see them winning at Eden Park. And then it's in Wellington the week after that. So if they sweep the Springboks and win the Rugby Championship, I think my mind will be changed.
Yeah, I can accept that. I would say that they'd need to beat the Springboks quite comfortably, though, as you mentioned. I think if they win twice, but it's like a few points here, a few points there, I'd still say the Springboks just about. But yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from.
England will be number 1 soon, anyway. Come 2027.
I like the optimism. I can't say I share it, but I like it. But yeah, no, I feel like that's a good place to end it on that positive English note. Typical English fans always bringing us into the conversation, even when we're not actually involved. But no, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you soon for another Rugby Paper Roundup.